this message finds you all in great health and well in these unique circumstances that we find ourselves in. I think today and what you're going to hear is going to be impactful for you on a lot of different levels. I think right now, many of the concerns are twofold. One is, what is my medical situation, and am I in a safe position, and how can I reduce and mitigate that risk? And secondly, for some, it's on the financial end. Some have been furloughed, some have been laid off. Some are working a lot, right? Some are not even sure. I just read an article this morning that said that unemployment numbers are projected to skyrocket because now this delay in when we probably could be looking to go back to normalcy continues to be pushed back. And some of you could be on here wondering a few different things. Number one, what is the future of my employment and how I know to provide for my family? Two, some of you could be worried about your family's livelihood financially. Maybe you're nearing retirement. Maybe you're worried about some of the accounts and what they're doing. And you understand the importance of getting informed and empowered so that you're in a position to make a unique decision. This morning, I'm going to have a chance to share with you some concepts that I believe are going to get the wheels moving in the brain and make you think about some things. And then now hopefully put you in a position where you can ask yourself, am I making informed financial decisions? Or am I simply just kind of dabbling at things without really evaluating if that's the best vehicle for my family? And secondly, for some, is going to be a business. You see, when I got introduced to this company, it was primarily on a client base. However, back then, when I saw the need for this, I thought to myself, this is something I think I could do, and I'll get a chance to talk to you more about how that is. But I want to share with you some statistics to sort of set the tone for the time that we're in and why the information I'm going to share with you this morning is so pertinent. Over 10 million Americans filed for unemployment in March of 2020. 4 out of 5 people in this country have admitted to be living paycheck to paycheck. 58% of Americans, 58%, have said that they have less than $1,000 in reserves, and 40% of Americans admit to having less than $10,000 in their retirement accounts. So frankly, when we look at the state of people's finances, they're probably the worst that they've been in most of our lifetime. And the information this morning, my goal is to really get you in a position where maybe you're now able to make some questions and figure out where can you make some improvements? How can you change this? Maybe you're at a point, and I'm sure many of you are, that you're looking to better this situation and make better decisions with it. So let me start by talking to you about our company, Transformation Financial, and our mission. Our mission is to help people from all walks of life to build a better future. One of the things right now that I see with a lot of people is they want to build better financial futures for their family, but they need that direction. So as I share with you the information this morning, and as you're hearing what I'm going to share, I want you to consider 3 questions. Number 1, do you know someone that could benefit from the message that you're going to hear? And like I said, my message this morning is twofold. Secondly, can this information help you or your family or friends financially as well? And then last is, are you intrigued by this business? We're going to have an opportunity at the end to set up some follow-up interviews and talk in greater detail about this. But I want you to have 2 sets of ears open so that you're able to hear and listen and get that for us. Let's get started here and start talking some more. So, strength. Our company is part of World Financial Group. Now, World Financial Group operates the back end. So they do all of our payroll. They handle our marketing. They handle legal. They handle, all the things most small businesses don't want to have to worry about doing. And they do that for us. All of our securities business goes through Transamerica Financial Advisors. I know we've got people from all across the country on this call, but if you've ever visited California, particularly Northern California, San Francisco, you'll find this unique building, which is like a pyramid-shaped building, and that's the Transamerica building that's very historical. And that's actually part of our organization, part of our company. And we're all part of the Aegon Company, which is a Dutch-based company, multi-billion dollars in assets, who owns several different companies, both in the financial and insurance industry. We've been known to be on Transamerica on the top 10 largest providers of many financial products for clients and families as well. But let's spend a few minutes talking about timing and why this is so significant. Frankly, obviously, right now with the coronavirus and everything that people, that's almost an additional slide to this. But let's take that out and let's talk about before, what's been the reality here. There's a generation out there called the baby boomers. There are 78 million people born between 1946 and 1964. What happened? There was World War II, the troops came back, and lots of babies were made. And at that point, it really revolutionized many businesses and industries. And it's been said that if you start a business that provides a service for people before they know they're going to need and want it, then your business would have excelled. I'll give you an example. Before the coronavirus, let's say you had a business which was preparing masks, ventilators, things like that. I think you'd be doing quite well, or frankly, toilet paper, right? But right now, there is, as we look at these baby boomers and we look at when these baby boomers were born, they started to transform industries because of the large demand they had for several industries. So as these babies were made, there was a need for baby food. And it used to be that moms or maybe dads made baby food at home for their children, but that was a changing trend. So a little small company that now has become a very well-known company by the name of Gerber Baby Foods, among many other food companies for babies, evolved in that era. It was a woman who went from making baby food in glass jars from home to build a multi-million-dollar baby food company. As these babies started growing, they needed toys to play with. Mattel, Fisher-Price, Hasbro, many of these companies that are household brands and names that we all know that maybe you played with or your children play with have now literally were established and became the brand it did because of the baby boomers. Then came fast food. These baby boomers were becoming teenagers. They wanted to have a way to go hang out. And they frankly were looking for fast food. That's where places like McDonald's and a lot of these drive-through concepts evolved from. Again, the baby boomer generation. As these baby boomers started getting driver's licenses, they wanted cars. Ford took off. The Mustang evolved at that point. For many of you guys, if you follow cars, you know that Mustang, not too many years ago, reinvented or recreated, I should say, their fastback, right? And their goal was to market not so much for the younger generation, rather it was to take the baby boomers back to their youth during their retirement years. And then in the 80s, that's when real estate thrived. These families were growing. They needed bigger homes. They were looking for more space, and the real estate industry exploded. Well, what is the era we are in now? These baby boomers are starting to retire at a high pace, and we'll talk about those statistics in a few minutes. And that's where we're in right now. Right now, there is a great need for financial information, not just for the baby boomers, because if you're on this call and you're not a baby boomer, you're probably thinking, I don't know how the heck I'm going to retire. That's probably something I could benefit as well, which leads me to the next generation, X and millennials. There's over 112 million people that were born between 1965 and 1994, of which make 41% of the population there. Now let's look at the marketplace. Right now, half of the advisors are age 55 or older, meaning that within a 10-year window, they're going to be retiring. Now, if we look at that, that means half of the field force that's equipped to be able to provide guidance to baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials are exiting as the need is exploding. And I share this with you because this is very important, because in business, a lot of times people say, well, this is a time to open my business. Great. But one of the questions you have to ask yourself in business is, number one, Is there a demand for what I do, right? Because if there's not really a demand, you're going to struggle with client base. Number two, and it's a really important element, is am I going to have support, mentorship, or training? One of the big reasons why most 9 out of 10 businesses fail is because they lack mentorship. They lack guidance. That's one of the reasons why franchises have greater success than regular small businesses, because of the guidance, because of the mentorship that comes with it. Number three, is it saturated? Is there already lots of people? I always tell people this. Think about it. Can you think of someone that you know that does real estate? The odds are most of you can. Loans, yes. Taxes, yes. Party planning, probably yes. Catering, yes, right? All of these things. But if you really sit and think, well, do I know somebody that I can go to that maybe has I have questions about retirement or life insurance or things like that? And the answer for most is no. And so that pointing the picture of how the demand on top of the numbers I've just illustrated. And then last, is there money to be made? Right now, the two biggest industries are healthcare and financial services. And frankly, I commend those in the healthcare industry. They're warriors right now, and they're literally men and women saving lives. But I get the opportunity as a mother of 3 to be able to work from home and be with my children, but be in one of the most demanding right now and growing and thriving industries while still getting to impact families financially in one of their big concerns. Now let's discuss the baby boomers. That's 77.3 million people, as I mentioned. Now every 7 seconds, there's a new baby boomer turning age 65. 10,900 per day for the next 10 years. Why is the number 65 so relevant? Well, for that generation, that's the number they associate to retirement because that's the age that most are eligible for Medicare, health insurance, right? And one of the sad realities, especially with what we have going on right now, there was already discussion before this multi-billion-dollar stimulus package was passed, but there's already discussion about we cannot afford for these next generations to retire at 65 because people are living too long, right? So these people are turning 65. Why is that important? Well, if they have 401ks or if they have certain retirement accounts that they need to ensure that they could generate income from, they need to be moved. They need to be moved. And what is happening is you need to be someone that's licensed and credentialed to help someone move that money. And so that's one of the reasons why what we do for families in such and growing demand. Now, the question, what is their concern, right? So something to understand about the baby boomers, they control currently 70% of the wealth of America, 70%, okay? Of that, so think about it, 78% of the wealth, of them, 58% admit that they have not yet talked to a financial professional. I want you to think about that for a minute. This is an analogy I use that I think will paint a picture for you how I feel about the financial industry and how most people are making financial decisions. Imagine in the medical field that you can walk into a store and every prescription drug was available for you on a shelf. And you had the capacity to literally go grab whatever bottle because it said stomach problems, headache, right, or whatever, and self-diagnose yourself without really looking at the whole picture. We'd have a lot of mass casualties if that was the case. Well, that's one of the reasons why we have so many mass casualties in the financial industry, because for most, that's how they are making financial decisions. They are self-diagnosing themselves with financial solutions without consulting with real experts on it. And one of the challenges that many baby boomers have, and sadly it's a challenge because they're living till probably about age 90 and they're not sure if they're going to have enough money. Now, what are some things that they're concerned about, baby boomers? Number one is obviously the protection and growth of assets. We're going to talk about how money grows in a few minutes and how specifically it pertains to that. Income distribution, like what I just mentioned, they don't want to run out of money. And wealth transfer. For many, they own 70% of the wealth. They want to make sure that what they've worked hard to build up is going to go to their family in the way that they saw fit. And then for many of them, they're looking for an encore career. I sit with a lot of people and I ask, what's your goal for retirement? And they say to me, well, I love to work. My goal is not to retire. Well, sadly, that could be the goal of the individual, but that might not be the goal of the company. Many companies are pulling the rug on older employees because one, they drive up the cost of healthcare and they're usually at the top of the pay scale and are replacing them for people that are young, of which were probably trained by these older employees, experienced employees, and unfortunately leaving many of them without work and not yet ready to retire and looking for an encore career. Now, it was asked of baby boomers by a poll, what is it that they fear most? And it was two things that were discussed. Number one is they had fear of death. That's 39%, okay? So about 4 out of 10. But 6 out of 10 said they feared most outliving their money. Think about that for a few minutes. Most people are afraid that they're going to live a full life, but they're not going to have enough, that they're going to have more life than they have money. And so that's where our industry comes into place, offering families the solutions where we have the opportunity to share with them how they can better take care of their family. Now let's talk about the concept of retirement and why it's such a big discussion right now, right? I get a lot of that. Well, Cindy, I don't get it. Like, why didn't maybe my parents worry about that as much, or my grandparents? Well, if you were in this country and retired, let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you worked for a good company, you gave them 20, 30 years of work, they were going to give you what's called a pension and health care, which meant that you were going to get a good percentage of your pay guaranteed for you for life. So you weren't going to ever worry about running out of money. In addition, back then, we weren't very much in a consumer-based society. So a lot of people had decent savings. I shared with you the statistic of how few people admit to having even $1,000 in savings. So savings as a society is so low because we're so consumer-based. We're so much about the new iPhone, the new gadget, the new this, the new that, and we're not really worried about saving. We've kind of shifted away from that concept. And then the last is Social Security, which frankly is so-so security. I don't think for many it's very secure. Some are even calling it social insecurity. And so given that the three main pillars of retirement are basically broken, where does that leave Americans today? It leaves them relying mostly on their 401k. I want you to think back to that shelf I told you with the medicines on the shelf. That's how most people are investing in a 401k. They don't know how it works. They don't know what they're investing in. They're panicking right now because they feel like they're on the scariest roller coaster of their life, that they have no idea when it's going to end. And that's one of the reasons why retirement is one of the big discussions. If you're on this call and you think, well, I'm 20, I'm 30, that's still a long way to go. Let me tell you, one of the things I encourage all of you to take advantage of is a free financial consultation to get these concepts understood so you really understand the impact and what the high cost of waiting could be if you do. I want to share with you one concept though, and that's the rule of 72. And this is the concept of how money grows, okay? So for most individuals, if they're going to save their money, many of them probably put that money in the bank, right? If I were to ask you what the average savings account is, it's a ridiculous number, probably 0.01. But for the sake of simple math, I'm going to just use the number 1. Let's say that you take in this case, it's 1. If I take the interest rate and I divide it into 72, that's going to equal the number of years it would take my money to double. So 72 divided by 1 equals 72. That means it takes 72 years for my money to double. If I put $10,000 at the age of 29, I would have to wait till age 101 for it to grow to $20,000. I mean, think about that. When you turn 101, what's $20,000 going to be? Nothing. Let's fast forward. Let's say we're going to get a 4%. Well, that money, if we divide 4 into 72, it's 18. Money is now doubling every 18 years. Now, if I start with that $10,000, it's going to grow to $40,000 at the age of 65. There's something out there called inflation. Think about it for a few minutes. What is the value of $40,000 going to be in 30 years? $40,000 doesn't even fund a full year for most people right now, especially if you live in the West Coast or in certain parts of the country, the cost of living is much higher, much less in the future. Let's fast forward. Let's say you were to get a 10% return. Now your money would be doubling every 7.2 years. 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. If you start at the age of 29 with that 10,000, you fast forward to 65, that's 320. And you go, well, wait, Cindy, why is 72 in there? Well, one of the reasons why 72 is there is because if you're on this call and you're maybe 40 or under or 45 and under, that's probably going to be the new norm for retirement. Not 65, it's likely going to be 72. So that's something to consider, to think. Now, the rule of 72 doesn't just apply to your savings, though. This is a concept that's either working in your favor or against you. It also works for debt. So if you look at credit cards, right? And let's say we have a credit card with a department store. Let's say JCPenney, Target, Kohl's, Home Depot, I don't know. Those credit cards are typically upwards of 20, 25, 28%. Let's just take 25, for example. If I divide that into 72, that means it's doubling faster than about every 3 years. So our money is growing like this, but then our debt is moving like this. And that's one of the reasons it's very important to understand fundamental financial concepts, because sometimes when we look at this, it makes us think twice of how we spend our money. Now let's talk about how money grows. I think this is really an important concept, especially with where we're at right now, with what the market's been doing. So the first is fixed. That's like putting your money in the bank. If you notice, it's a very flat growth. It's never losing, and it does have a level of growth potential. But why do people put their money there? It's because it's safe, right? It's not really because it's going to grow. It's just because it's safe. The second looks like a heart attack, but frankly, that's your 401k, that's your 403b, that's your variable investments that reflect the stock market performance. So if the stock market goes up, so does your money. If the stock market goes down, so does your money. There's really no limits in the top or the bottom what that is or how that works. And for many, that's concerning to them. And there's some that say, wow, you could use buy, hold, or different strategies. The reality is none of us, even having those strategies, could have predicted what was going to happen right now at the pace and how rapidly it occurred. And so it's really wiped out for the average family around 30% of their 401k. And for some that are invested heavily in industries that were severely impacted by this market, higher than 50, 60%. And the last is index. The index is essentially like a hybrid model of the two. So essentially, if you look at the gray line reflects what the stock market has done. But then the red line reflects how the money is actually growing within an indexed account. So essentially, when the market goes down, clients do not participate. But if the market goes up, they participate up to a certain amount, allowing them that safety, never to have to stop, right? Or worse yet, take, a lot of times we get our statement in our 401k. And for many, the most recent statement just got to your home. And so you just got the quarter one. And if you look at your December quarter statement, and if you look at your quarter one statement, you're looking at it like, what in the heck just happened? What happened to all my money? Well, it's the variable. In an indexed, let's assume that that was your 401k, and in December you had a high value, your end of March statement would read the identical number to that because you would have never lost money. It would only reflect ups up to a certain amount. And so the question I ask you is, how do you like your money to grow? I will let you know right now with the CARE Act that was just passed, some of you might qualify to be able to reallocate and diversify your 401k outside of the 401k. So some of you might have the opportunity, penalty-free, to be able to take money out of your 401k to be able to invest it in something like what I just described to you, if it fits your investment objective. But you do have to qualify, and that is one of the reasons why I recommend you, at the very least, set up a brief 20, 30-minute consultation. I mean, frankly, I ask you, could you think of any logical reason why you wouldn't sit with someone for about 20, 30 minutes if they're able to, number one, guarantee that you'd never lose money, and number two, you wouldn't have to sacrifice growth potential for that? I mean, there's really none. So I encourage you to have that. Let's talk about taxation, right? There's two things in life that are guaranteed, and frankly, both people aren't protected from. It's death and taxes. When it comes to death, most people I sit with and talk to, and I say, do you have life insurance? Yeah, through my job. Okay. Two things to consider with life insurance. Do I have enough, right? How much do I need to have? Most people I talk to, when I say, do you know how much insurance someone needs? They don't know the answer. Problem. They've never sat with a financial professional. Two, I said, do you know the types of life insurance? And given your needs, which one is the most suitable for you? Usually the answer is no. Again, that's part of what we do for our clients in our consultation. So there's that. There's death. But then there's taxation. And most people are not investing in something because it makes the most sense tax-wise. They're just investing because that's all they know. So let's talk about the tax treatment of the gains of someone's money when we put it into different investments. So there's taxable, which means tax now. Every single year you pay taxes. Any type of account, let's say the bank, savings, even mutual fund stocks, every year that it grows, you have to pay taxes on it. But then there's what we call tax deferred or tax later, which is, in essence, it's IRS that says to you, don't worry about paying me taxes right now. However, when you retire or when you take that money out, I'll let you know what you owe me at that point. I want you to think about that for a few minutes. I'll let you know what you owe me at that point. They didn't tell you what you owe or what they're going to take. You have no idea. You're building up this nest egg, as you could see in the visual there, and you're going to have to part with a percentage of that, but you're not being told what percentage. It's a scary reality for most Americans. By the way, I'm not here to talk politics, but what do you think is the likelihood future of taxes, especially given all that we're spending right now? I'd project there's probably a good chance that they're going to go up. So if I have money in my 401k, if I have money in my IRAs, annuities, bonds, that's what's happening. It's tax deferred, okay? And then the last is tax advantage, or in essence, tax free. Those are things like Roth IRAs or cash accumulation and insurance policies where I'm able to build assets for myself, or I could legally take it out absolutely tax-free. A lot of times I get clients that go, well, how come we've never heard of it? And I ask, well, when's the last time you sat down with a financial professional? And that usually answers the question. So it's important, get informed. Now, what is it that we do for families? We do a full financial needs analysis. And a lot of times I get the question of, well, how much do you guys charge for this? And one thing I'll tell you is we've made it very affordable for every single person, including in these hard economic times. It's free. Most companies, I'll tell you, charge anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to do what I'm going to do for you right here and illustrate how we provide this for families. So we go through and illustrate these areas for them. We look at cash flow, right? How much is coming in? What does their budget look like? And then for many, they need to look at, especially right now, is could my household benefit from an additional income? And people go, well, Cindy, not a lot of people are hiring right now. Well, that's where I need your second set of ears to open up in a few minutes as I talk to you about what we're doing and how we're expanding and looking for some individuals. Two, looking at creating an emergency fund, having a rainy day fund, 3 to 6 months worth of income. I'll tell you, if most of us had that, we wouldn't be as stressed out financially with what's occurring right now because we would have set up a reserve for it. 3 is debt management. So we've partnered up with a debt settlement company that helps clients that are in that need of severity of help, or we teach people basic debt strategies to get out of debt at a quicker pace and be able to help reduce that. 4, proper protection. I've talked to you about that. Life insurance is frankly the foundation to any and all financial plans. The loss of a loved one doesn't just carry with it an emotional loss. One of the big impacts that comes soon after is a financial one. And no, GoFundMe is not life insurance. You have the capacity to be properly protected. So if the loss of a loved one, it doesn't cause the need to go beg for money or the need to go sell the house because you can't afford the mortgage, or having to move our children and not only lose a parent, but have to lose their home, their school, their friends, because certain basic decisions weren't made. And people say, Cindy, well, what about now with the situation? I'll share with you a really quick story. I did an appointment with one of my associates. This client thought she had a life insurance policy through her bank. We did one of these Zoom appointments. I said, do me a favor, go to the first page of your policy, read what it says. She said, accidental death and dismemberment. I said, do you know what that means? She says, no. I said, I'll tell you this. If you die of the coronavirus, that will not cover you. If you die of a certain health issue, that will not cover you. You must die in a very specific way in order for it to pay. Well, I'll tell you that for the same amount of coverage, we were able to give her life insurance, and not just life insurance, insurance that if she became ill, she would be able to use it for that for less than $1 a day. Think about that for a minute. So literally what she was paying for something, we were able to take it for about $2-3 more to actually have the proper protection. Well, I challenge you to think, what are things that I'm spending on? Am I paying insurance on my phone? Can I cut down on other accessories that I have so that I'm able to have basic protection for my family? 5 is build wealth. As I mentioned, am I going to have enough money to retire? Am I going to be in a position where my money is working for me and I'm not just working for money? And the last is preserving wealth. As you start to build your assets, as you start to build things for yourself, it's creating a legacy. It's maybe having a living trust. We will be having a seminar, a live seminar with an attorney to talk about the role of living trust for your family. So I'll talk to you about that in more detail. You might be wondering, well, if we don't pay you, how do you get paid? Well, we've partnered with these companies here. We actually represent over 200 top financial insurance and investment firms, of which when we're able to help a family, they pay us, right? So we're able to make an impact that way. We help families in a number of different products, but as you're looking at our carriers and our partners that we're working with, I'm sure that most of them, if not all, you're very familiar with. These are companies that have been around for hundreds of years and have been servicing clients, which is really important to us. We want to make sure that the solutions we're providing for our clients, we know that these companies will be there to deliver on that promise when they get to that point of needing that service. Now, let's talk about the compensation. I've illustrated, I think, pretty clearly the demand for what we do. Now I want to talk to you about how this for many has become an opportunity for a secondary income. You know, I want to use an analogy, and I think for a lot of people right now, they've got this job that's like a car that's forced to be parked in the driveway. Literally for some, it's like if all 4 tires have been slashed. They're laid off, they're furloughed. There's absolutely no way they could generate an income with that vehicle, with that job. Well, for some, they're now getting a second vehicle in that driveway that does have the capacity to be driven around to generate an income. You know, with our company in our expansion, we have the possibility to generate personal income where you're out there, you can go help families, and based on the families that you help, by the way, how do you help families? Literally in the format that I'm showing you right now. You're able to be from home, be able to sit with families, talk about concepts. We have a full onboard training program where we take our agents from A to Z on how to be able to put successful plans together and assign a personal trainer for each of our new individuals that get started to be able to do that. I do want to be clear, though, that we're not a joint type of business and we're not looking to bring everyone on board. Frankly, we're at a time where we could be highly selective. People are really looking and shifting to new areas to look for opportunities. We're looking for people that have good character and integrity, that like to help people, and frankly, aren't afraid to work hard, that want to learn something new, that are ready to be committed and to develop that. So personal income is an opportunity. By the way, part of our personal income, for most people, when they stop working, so does their income. In our industry, it's different. Part of our industry includes insurance. In the insurance industry, there's a renewal component. So if you have car insurance or homeowners insurance, there's no secret why sometimes you'll get a calendar, a postcard, or something from your insurance agent. It's because they want to make sure that that renewal continues to come and that you continue to pay that policy. On the investment end, there's a trails. So our industry comes with a residual, which means that you get to build a book of business of clients over the years that continues to pay you a small percentage for a lifetime. And then you have the opportunity to build an agency income. Very much like the real estate industry, you could be a broker, or the insurance industry. The difference is here, our company provides you a platform where you have the proper support and mentorship, where you can build that as large as you'd like, spanning across the 50 countries. Now you say, well, what's the earning potential? I'll tell you this. If an associate comes on board with their personal income, they go help a family a week. Let's just say they help a family a week put about $50 a month in one of our flagship products. They're making over $4,300 a month part-time for helping families put a financial solution together. That retirement stool I told you, that F&A, they're helping solve a couple solutions there, a couple areas of need by doing that. That's about $51,000 per year. Think about that for a minute. Some people right now aren't making that at their job, and people in our industry get to make that part-time. Now, there's a management position. If you're somebody that has leadership experience or managerial experience and you're good with people, there's a position that could take 3 to 6 months to get there. It's a senior marketing director position that not only provides you a personal income. So if you go out there and help 4 families at this position, you're going to make around $7,600 a month. But in addition, if you build an agency, at most jobs, you're responsible for training people to how to do a job. But there's absolutely no incentive for doing that. So if you're on this call and you've ever trained people for your company, I want you to ask yourself, how much money have you generated for that company? And what if they had an override compensation where you had the opportunity right now to make a percentage of what they're generating or the revenue they're creating for that company? What would your pay look like? Well, that's what our company offers. The reality in corporate America, most people that are training someone are potentially training their competition or their replacement in the future. Here, you're essentially training people to become successful, to go out there and help that big marketplace I described earlier, and you get incentivized by our company for helping people do that and become competent. That's an over $200,000 a year income for going out there and helping families, adding to it your personal income, almost $300,000. So that's one of the things that I'll tell you that has transformed. Now, not only is the income potential there, our company is big on recognition. For most people, they're either paid well or treated well, not both. Our company gives you the platform for both. They're big on recognition. If you like jewelries, there's watches, there's rings, there's lots of that. If you're someone that loves to travel, there's constant incentive travel. Unfortunately, this year, the COVID-19 has impacted that. But every year there's around 2 to 3 company trips, and maybe many of the local offices have another few trips as well to that. We have big conventions and galas where we do big recognition and plaques and awards. I know that when I used to work at a nonprofit, after 10 years, you would get a mug after 10 years of service. I'll tell you, our company knows how to recognize and how to lift people and really build people to become successful individuals. Now, I want to close with this and talking to you about, you've had the chance to hear about a unique business opportunity. Let's now talk about where we're at, what the opportunity, what your choices are at this point. Option number 1, you might be at a point where you say, Cindy, I'm very satisfied with what I'm doing. My business is growing. I'm doing well. However, I recognize the importance of getting a second look in my current financial plan. Or I realize I don't have a financial plan and I need an F&A done, and I need to make sure that I'm taking advantage of the proper strategies to set my family up for financial independence. That's one of the options. There's going to be a questionnaire at the end. And one of the things I encourage you is link up with the person that invited you. Because of the demand of what we have right now, we have filled up a lot of slots in terms of openings, but we do have a handful that I encourage you, if you want to set up an appointment, quickly link one up and have that set up for yourself. 2 is self-employed or twin career. This is maybe you're working, or maybe you're at a point where you think, I got it. It's time for me to really add that second vehicle to my driveway, so that I don't know if that vehicle would be something you're going to drive around for the next 6 months, the next 12 months, the next 5 years, or a lifetime like myself. But however long you decide to drive it around, it could provide you a secondary income for your family. where you get the opportunity to become a licensed quality professional with an incredible training program that our company offers, of which all of it is offered online in this type of platform that we're using right now. You get to control your time, you get to work from home, and you have the ability to start on a part-time basis. We are one of the only companies in the financial industry that allows someone to start on a part-time basis. Now, we're going to talk specifics in our interview process about our onboarding program and how we train, but literally we take individuals from A to Z. I came from the field of education. My background was helping kids go to college. I had no experience in the financial industry, and I thank God because now 15 years later, I've been in a position to impact families, including my own. I got to enter an industry that taught me a world-class financial education, and I think that's one of the benefits that comes with option 2. And now, in addition, to be able to help others do the same for their family. And the last is a business owner. What comes with the incentives of business owners? Well, you get to build it as big as you want and across all 50 states if you choose to. There's supervisory overrides, there's renewals, there's trails, there's advisories, bonus pools. I mean, an incredible opportunity. And essentially, you build your own agency of which you own. And you have the ability, if you choose, to sell back to the company in the future. As I mentioned, there's going to be an opportunity to have a follow-up. There's a website I put on here, www.tntwfg.com. On the middle of that page, you're going to see questionnaire. I encourage you, go on there, fill it out, answer some questions, and let's link up a time so that we could get you connected with one of our professionals so that we could get your questions answered. I appreciate you being on this morning. We look forward to connecting with you and being able to provide your family with some solutions and helping empower your family. And I hope that you stay safe in the era that we're in. And we look forward to making an impact and helping you grow.